You're not like other investors, and that's what I think you built your reputation on. I think you are
I wore my khaki pants today, man.
No, you'd be wearing a blue blazer and tan chinos if you were like everyone else. But you really postulate transparency, showing people my warts, showing them what's good, showing them what's bad. You also postulate genuineness. This is you. If you watch your Twitter feed, your Instagram feed, this is you no matter what day it is. And I think that's very different. Because when we were coming up in the first .com and 2.0, it was all secret society and let's not tell people what term sheets say, and if we keep them all in the dark, we'll get an advantage. But you sort of turned the corner on that. You and I'd say Fred Wilson and a handful of other people stood up and said, if it's a good deal, then it can stand public scrutiny, it can be transparent. Why? Why did you decide to try it a different way?
So probably two things impacted that. I guess I never... The preamble is, I guess I never really viewed myself as, a venture capitalist from that frame of reference. And it's the kind of thing where I never really felt like I worked for anybody. Sure, I worked for Ameridata for a couple of years. They bought my first company. Theoretically, I had a job. My job was to torture people, right? I worked for the two co-chairmen. They would send me out into the world to stir up trouble. And that was fun.
For sure.
Right? And it was stimulating, and I learned stuff. And my whole role as a venture capitalist was very much in support of the entrepreneur from the very beginning, because I came to it from an entrepreneur first, then an angel investor, now a venture capitalist. And so I never really viewed myself as a venture capitalist from this is how I must act. In the mid-2000s, sort of post-internet bubble, there was essentially a handful of people. Fred is a great example of one.
Fred Wilson from Union.
Fred Wilson from Union Square Ventures, who is a very close friend, and we would talk, and I think all of us kind of felt like outsiders, and we were fine with that. I felt like an outsider in a lot of ways for a lot of life, and that was comfortable. And my personal view, so that's the preamble. My personal view became, I want to do two things for the balance of my professional career.
Two things balance your career. Number one?
Number one, I want to become awesome at this thing that I'm doing.
So I'm going to do this, if I'm going to invest my emotional, my brain energy, and all of that, I want to be awesome at it.
I want to be awesome at it. Okay. And I defined the thing that I was doing as a reasonably broad arc in the context of investing in technology companies. But the job and the definition of success was very simple. My investors give me a box with money in it, and I'm supposed to give them back a bigger box with more money in it.
Pretty simple, it seems.
That's it. And so everything I do is in support of that goal. And when I thought about how I wanted to approach it, so this is the first part, if I wanted to be awesome at it, the best way to do it was to be completely and fully engaged in it without any sort of veneer about how it worked. And that leads to the second part, is I wanted to, while I was doing that, I wanted to make sure I was learning as much as I possibly could on a continual basis, because I didn't think that there was ever a way to have total mastery over this. Because it's continually changing, it's lifelong learning, and it's lots of different things that input it. To be awesome at it, I had to constrain what I was doing. I had to focus on a particular category, software internet. I had to focus on a particular geography, North America. But I had a premise, for example, that you could do this anywhere in the world, that you didn't have to do it in Silicon Valley.
In fact, when you look at where Techstars has really expanded, it's not into the Valley, it's into more robust economic areas that don't have that.
That's right.
If I'm guessing.
That's
totally where fair. You've chosen to grow. I mean, Boulder, fabulous quality of life, very Canadian, clean air, people are nice to each other, but it's close enough to be the flyover zones, you can get where you need to go, but you grew a community there from almost zero to nothing.
Deliberately. Deliberately. And, Foundry Group, same thing. My three partners and I are all based in Boulder. But we invest all around the country. So I had this premise that you could invest broadly, but still I had to constrain it a little bit. I wasn't going to invest in Asia. I wasn't going to invest in China. I wasn't going to invest in Europe. I wasn't going to invest in late stage other types of deals. I tried to pick a thing that I felt like I could be awesome at, and that I felt had an opportunity for me to learn continually. And those two things together linked to this notion of living it in public, because I figured I would learn the most if I exposed the things I was thinking about as much as I could.